Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we take a stack of fascinating sources and, well, we try to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight just for you.
That's the goal.
And today, wow, we're plunging headfirst into one of the most uh, electrifying discussions buzzing around artificial intelligence.
It really is everywhere, isn't it?
It is. And it's not just about the incredible things AI can do, but really what its rise means for us. You know, the very definition of being human, of creativity, our place in the world. It feels like it's all being reshaped right now.
Yeah, absolutely. These aren't just technological questions anymore, are they? Things you solve with code. They're becoming these profound philosophical inquiries.
Into what? Like our identity?
Yeah, into our identity, our values, the very fabric of our future. AI, in a way, it's like this unique, powerful mirror.
Huh, a mirror.
Yeah, reflecting back at us what we truly value, maybe what we're afraid of losing, and, what we ultimately hope to become as a species.
That's a perfect way to put it. So today, our deep dive is into this really fascinating, often contentious debate. Human creativity versus AI's capabilities,
Right.
which seem to be expanding almost daily.
Right, and the ethical side, too.
Oh, absolutely. The incredibly complex ethical dilemmas AI presents, and then these truly mind-bending philosophical implications for how we understand ourselves and our world. We're not just going to scratch the surface here. We're going to try and get into the weeds a bit.
And to guide us through this, this intricate landscape, we've gathered some really compelling source material. We'll be pulling insights from a pretty lively online discussion.
Right, the Reddit thread.
Exactly. A Reddit thread started by a user called Simul, and they really dare to ask if maybe we put human creativity on, an unwarranted pedestal. It's a provocative place to start. Definitely forces you to reevaluate.
Oh, it absolutely is. And that moving into the more, let's say, academic side, we'll unpack some rigorous papers, like The Ethics of Artificial Intelligence by Bostrom and Yukowski.
Yeah.
That lays out some foundational challenges, right?
Yes, it's a key one. And we also have ethical dilemmas posed by the rise of artificial intelligence from Regent Scientifica. That offers a very human-centered perspective on AI's impact.
Okay, and another crucial one.
Measuring what matters. Metrics for aligning AI policy with human flourishing. Which is super important because it pushes us to think about AI's benefits beyond just, efficiency or profit.
And then flourishing, I like that.
And then, to really challenge our core thinking, we've got a thought-provoking philosophical interview with Tobias Rees from Noema.
Rees, right. What's his main argument?
He argues pretty compellingly that AI isn't just another tech advancement. He calls it a philosophical rupture.
A rupture, wow.
Yeah, a break from centuries of how we've defined ourselves. Fundamentally.
Okay, so our mission today is clear then. We're going to unpack these different sources, look at the arguments from multiple angles, and hopefully help you, our listener, navigate this rapidly evolving landscape with some clarity, maybe a bit of critical thinking, and I hope a sense of wonder too. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
So let's jump right into the heart of it with this really provocative premise. This Reddit user, Simul, argues something pretty bold, right? That many people put human creativity on this pedestal it doesn't deserve, and that AI will soon surpass it. I mean, that's designed to ruffle some feathers.
It absolutely is. And Simul is quick to define their terms, which is, crucial here. They say creativity means the capability of coming up with novel ideas that are useful.
Novel and useful. Okay, that's key.
Exactly. It immediately sets a practical frame. Simul isn't interested in ideas that are just novel but bizarre, like their example of stacking TVs to block the sun.
Right. Novel, but pretty useless.
Or, on the other flip side, ideas that are useful but totally unoriginal, like just opening another identical coffee shop. Simul is focused squarely on the outcome, ideas that are new and provide some tangible benefit or solution.
Okay. And this leads to their core distinction, which you said is where it gets really interesting. This idea that most human creativity isn't extrapolative, but interpolative. Can you break that down for us?
Sure. Think of it like this. Maybe imagine a huge map, right? Multidimensional. Every existing idea, every piece of info, every concept is a point on this map.
Okay, like a conceptual landscape.
Yeah, exactly. In machine learning, they call it a latent space. Related ideas are kind of clustered together. Now, interpolative creativity, that's like finding new, maybe more efficient or elegant paths between the existing points on that map.
So connecting the dots that are already there, but in new ways.
Precisely. It's combining elements that already exist in novel and useful ways. It's not necessarily pulling something entirely out of thin air, but more like a clever recombination, a reimagining, or a sophisticated refinement of what's already known.
Okay, like building with existing Lego bricks, but making something new.
That's a good way to think about it. Simul gives a clear example. Product A is strong here, weak there. Product B has strengths that cover A's weaknesses. The creative act of combining the best of A and B to make an improved A. That's classic interpolation. You're intelligently rearranging and blending existing components. A lot of business innovation works like this, right? Taking a model from one industry, applying it to another.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. So much innovation feels like iterative improvement building on what came before.
Exactly. Now, extrapolation, that's different. That would be generating entirely new concepts from scratch, ideas that don't easily map onto existing points or clusters in that latent space.
Like jumping off the map entirely.
Sort of, yeah. Truly revolutionary leaps. Outliers. Ideas that defy easy categorization based on what we already know. Simul uses a music analogy here.
Ah, okay. How does that work?
Well, if you feed an AI tons of classical music, Mozart, Bach, Beethoven, you know it can get incredibly good at generating new pieces that sound authentically classical.
Okay, because it learns the patterns, the rules of that style.
Exactly. That's interpolative creativity. It understands the patterns, harmonies, structures, and can combine them in novel ways within that established framework.
But where's the limit for the AI in that analogy?
The limit, Simul argues, is creating, say, good modern-sounding music if it's only been trained on classical. Why? Because modern music often involves entirely new scales, rhythms, sounds, conceptual approaches, things far outside the latent space defined by classical music.
So it can't invent jazz if it only knows Bach.
Pretty much. Think of someone like Wagner in the 19th century. His music was a radical departure, pushing boundaries of tonality, structure. It was an extrapolative leap. An AI trained only on Mozart and Beethoven would struggle to just invent Wagner because it lacks those truly novel deviations.
That distinction feels really important.
It's crucial because, as Simul points out, current deep learning models, they excel at interpolation. They are pattern-finding machines, data-combining powerhouses.
Right. And if most human creativity is, as Simul argues, interpolative,
then AI is perfectly poised to excel at it, and potentially surpass humans just because of sheer processing power and speed.
And this leads to some pretty bold predictions Simul makes about the very near future.
Yeah, Simul doesn't hold back. They predict AI models won't just show creativity, but will become better than people at generating useful ideas, and soon.
Like what specifically?
Well, for instance, they foresee a nearby future where top 40 music producers routinely use AIs. The AI generates thousands, maybe millions of melodies, hooks, chord progressions.
Man.
And the human producer's role shifts. They become more like a curator, sifting through this ocean of AI-generated options, picking the hits. Think about the sheer volume and speed. It's a total game changer for that industry.
Thousands of melodies. It really changes what composer even means, doesn't it?
It really does. And Simul goes even further, into science. They suggest that in just 5 to 10 years, most of the scientific ideas will be driven by the AI.
Most. Driven by AI.
That's the claim. While the execution, the lab work, might still be done by humans, the rationale, that 95% or more of current scientific papers involve what Simul calls clever connection of old concepts ideas.
So interpolation again.
Exactly. Imagine AI reading millions of research papers, finding subtle links between, say, biology and physics that no single human could ever spot because of the sheer volume of information. It could propose hypotheses, design experiments at a scale we can't even imagine.
That's powerful, and maybe a bit unsettling for some people, challenging our ideas of human genius.
Definitely unsettling for some. But of course, there's pushback in the thread. Fierce pushback.
Right. Like user Preacher Judge, who questions Simul's definition of useful, especially for art. Well, what's their angle?
Preacher Judge brings up a core tension. They argue useful is just too vague, too limited, especially for art. Art, they say, isn't useful in a practical sense, right? You don't hang a Monet to insulate your wall.
No, usually not.
Art is meant to be experienced for its own sake. To evoke emotion, inspire thought, offer beauty, its value is intrinsic, not instrumental. This challenges Simul's outcome-focused definition. It suggests creativity's purpose goes way beyond just practical utility.
And that ties into another big counter-argument. AI is just a tool, right? A sophisticated one maybe, but still a tool. Someone mentioned a caveman and the brush analogy.
Yes, that analogy is quite neat. The caveman invents the brush with an intention smoother lines, maybe. The human has the creative spark. The brush is the useful tool to execute it.
So the human built the AI image generator? Or the melody filter?
Exactly. The machine is amazing, useful, performs incredible feats, but it doesn't direct itself. Even if you tell an AI, like one user joke, to print happy little trees for eternity, it's still just following human instructions. The ultimate creative agency, this view argues, still lies with the human designer or prompter.
The AI is the fancy paintbrush, the human is still the artist.
That's the idea. And this leads to another critical point people raise: emotion and intuition. Many argue real creativity requires feeling. The Little Strawberry 3 points out that great art isn't just technically perfect, it makes you feel something deep.
Joy, sorrow, awe.
Right. And, crucially, to evoke emotion, you probably need to have emotion to draw upon. There's this idea of an inner wellspring of experience that AI, being non-sentient, just doesn't have access to.
And Celathorm echoes this, saying AI remixes, but lacks its own artistic spin. Like a DJ mixing tracks, but not writing the original songs from personal experience.
That captures it well. True innovation, maybe, comes from that internal, subjective, often emotional place that AI can't tap into. It can find patterns, optimize for usefulness, generate complexity, but it can't know what it's like to feel joy or heartbreak, which often fuels human breakthroughs. This challenges Simmel's focus on just the outcome. Maybe the process, the source, the feeling matters.
It really highlights a deep philosophical split, doesn't it? Is creativity the result or the experience? And Simmel does concede a point here, right, about extrapolation being harder for AI.
Yes, to their credit, Simmel is clear on this. An AI trained on classical music can generate great classical music that's interpolation within a known space, but it struggles with truly good modern-sounding music because that often involves those outlier leaps.
Like inventing jazz or electronic music.
Exactly. Those were extrapolative leaps, pushing beyond existing frameworks. That's a hurdle even Simmel admits is tough for current AI, requiring a jump into the unknown, not just recombining the known.
So maybe AI can write a flawless Beethoven pastiche, but not invent bebop.
That seems to be the idea. Then there's the created versus creator issue raised by a deleted user. If AI is a creation, how can it surpass the creator's creativity? The credit always goes back to the human architect.
That feels intuitive. How does Simmel respond?
Simmel argues that needing updates isn't a huge bottleneck. The point is, while a human starts it, the AI's ability to process vastly more data and iterate way faster could lead to ideas the human couldn't generate due to their own limits. The human sparks it, the AI builds a firestorm of ideas.
But then CBDQS brings it back to today. Like, hey, AI isn't actually writing hit movies or #1 songs right now. Simmel's argument feels hypothetical, and maybe we should celebrate human creativity currently.
And Simmel's reply really gets to their core thesis. They say it's not about AI's current ability, but about recognizing that human creativity isn't this mysterious transcendent thing people think it is.
Demystifying it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Once you see most creativity as interpolation, connecting concepts, well, that process can be mapped onto an artificial neural network. It's about showing creativity is, at heart, maybe a computational process, and therefore, machinable.
So it's less about AI being better now, more about the nature of creativity itself being potentially replicable. Wow, that really forces you to think about what makes us unique, or if we even are in that way. Okay, let's shift gears a bit.
Yeah.
Moving beyond just performance and creativity, let's get into the ethical landscape, because this is where AI's impact gets really tangible, affecting everything from individual rights to, well, global well-being. And a huge concern is bias and transparency, right?
Oh, absolutely critical. And something demanding immediate attention. As the Bostrom and Yudkowsky paper highlights, AI models aren't born neutral. They learn from historical data, text, images, decisions.
Our messy human data.
Exactly. And they inevitably inherit the biases in that data. Not intentionally programmed biases, usually, but reflections of our own societal flaws. The classic example is Amazon's recruiting tool.
Right, the one biased against women. How did that happen again?
Well, it learned from past resumes where, historically in tech, most successful hires were men. Even when they tried to make it gender blind, the AI figured out proxies like Women's Chess Club or certain colleges and penalized applicants associated with them.
Wow. So it learned to be biased just from the patterns.
It replicated and even amplified existing societal imbalances. A powerful, scary demonstration of how AI, without extreme care, can embed and perpetuate prejudice.
And this ties into the black box problem, doesn't it? the lack of transparency. The Bostrom paper stresses making AI transparent to inspection. Why is that so vital?
Think about getting rejected for a loan by an AI, and there's
Yeah.
just no explanation. Not just, we can't tell you, but maybe there's no clear reason in principle because the AI found some obscure correlation deep in the data.
Like your first name or where you shop.
Could be anything. Maybe your first name is weakly correlated with defaults in the data set, or you buy a certain brand of cereal. Who knows? This lack of insight makes it impossible to understand, let alone challenge decisions affecting your life, credit, jobs, maybe even healthcare. It's a loss of agency. Deeply concerning.
And the Santa Clara University piece brings up an interesting point about double standards. We want perfect, explainable machines, but we don't hold humans to that standard.
Yeah, it suggests maybe if we want machines to be better, we need to be better and work on our implicit biases.
So it's on us, too.
It's a call for human accountability. The problem isn't just the code. It's often a reflection of the biased world the AI learns from. If we feed it flawed data reflecting systemic inequalities, it'll produce flawed results. We expect AI to be magically objective, but maybe we need to fix the source, our own biases, the data we create, not just blame the algorithm.
That really forces us to look inward. It's a shared responsibility. But beyond learned biases, there's also this issue of unforeseen behavior, right? The black box acting in ways designers never intended.
Right, this moves beyond what Bostrom and Yudkowsky call the toaster paradigm. Our intuition is that AI is like a toaster. You press a button, it does its specific predictable thing.
Toast comes out, simple.
But advanced AI, especially deep learning, it breaks that model. It's not just a complex toaster.
How so?
Think about Deep Blue, the chess AI. The programmers couldn't predict its specific moves. The possibilities are astronomical.
Way too many moves to program in.
Exactly. So instead, they designed it for a goal. Optimality, winning the game. They sacrificed predictability of the specific moves.
For the overall goal of winning. They set the objective, the AI found the path.
Precisely. They knew it would try to win, but couldn't foresee how in every situation. This leads to the core dilemma. How do you design an AI to act safely in thousands of unforeseen contexts?
You can't program for every possibility.
No. So you need to specify good behavior broadly, like don't harm humans. But that requires the AI itself to understand consequences, to extrapolate outcomes in complex situations. A toaster can't do that. It's about predicting unforeseen outcomes, not just specific actions.
This really changes AI ethics then, especially for AGI, artificial general intelligence. It's not just debugging code anymore.
Right. The paper highlights 3 big shifts. 1, specific AI behavior might become unpredictable, even if programmed correctly. 2, verifying safety means verifying the AI's goals and values, not checking its behavior in every single impossible-to-test context.
And the third.
This one's profound. Ethical cognition itself must be taken as a subject matter of engineering. We need to build ethics into the AI's core reasoning, its learning, its goals, not just tack on rules.
Engineering a conscience. Wow. Okay, that leads directly to the next big question. Moral status. If we build these things, do they eventually deserve rights?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Right now, the consensus is clear. Today's AI. No moral status. They're tools. Our duties are to humans. We can delete programs like we unplug toasters.
But what if they get smarter, more aware?
That's where it gets incredibly complex. The key criteria usually discussed are sentience, the capacity for subjective experience, feeling, and sapience, or personhood, self-awareness, reason, autonomy.
And the paper mentions this principle of ontogeny non-discrimination. Ontogeny, that's about origin, right?
Yes, how something came into being. The principle argues, if 2 beings have the same functionality and conscious experience, how they originated naturally or artificially shouldn't affect their moral status.
Like a human clone example.
Exactly. Most would agree a human clone, if created, would have the same moral status as any other human baby, despite its artificial conception. This principle extends that logic. If an AI somehow achieved true sentience and sapience, its artificial origin shouldn't disqualify it from moral consideration.
So if it thinks and feels like us, it doesn't matter that it's made of silicon.
According to this principle, no. Its origin shouldn't matter for its basic moral status. Creators might have special duties, like parents, but the fundamental status would be the same.
That's a massive leap. It requires rethinking what person even means.
It really does. It opens up a Pandora's box our current laws and morals just aren't ready for. And this connects directly to concerns raised in the Region Scientifica paper about human dignity, autonomy, and where we draw the ethical red line.
That paper takes a very human-centric stance, right? emphasizing our uniqueness.
Very much so. It defines humans as holistic, multidimensional beings, self-aware, self-determining, capable of purpose and ethical thought, fundamentally autonomous, worthy of respect just for being human.
And AI, in contrast.
AI is described as fundamentally different. A programmed machine, its function given by another, lacking uniqueness, true freedom, conscience, dignity. It can't think about its existence or be aware of its uniqueness. It's a tool.
So never an end in itself, only a means, like Kant's idea.
Exactly. It grounds its argument in Kant's imperative. Treat humanity always as an end, never merely as a means. AI, being a means, can never attain the status of an end in itself, which humans inherently possess.
And this leads to a crucial distinction they make. Technology versus technocracy. It's not anti-tech, but about power dynamics.
Absolutely vital distinction. Technology, technique are valuable tools serving humanity. Technocracy is when the power of the machine starts to alienate us, make us slaves of technology, when the tool dictates the terms.
Like the education example they give.
Perfect example. If tech fully replaces the teacher, it risks manipulating the student, turning education into mere instruction or behavioral programming, undermining autonomy and critical thinking. The question becomes, is this education or instruction? Is it empowering thought or just programming information?
This really demands a human-centered approach to AI governance. Ensuring tech serves human flourishing doesn't diminish our dignity.
Exactly. And that Region Scientifica paper, citing Huang et al., gives a broad classification of ethical issues, way beyond just jobs or bias, at the individual level. Security, data protection, liberty, autonomy, human dignity itself.
Basic human rights potentially under threat.
Then socially. Equity, justice, accountability, transparency, surveillance worries, AI controllability, can we switch it off? Impact on democracy, civil rights, labor, even human relationships. What happens when AI companions become common?
Does it erode real connection? And it even hits the environment, you said.
Often overlooked, yes. The sheer energy and resources needed for big AI models. Data centers running 24/7. It impacts resource use, pollution, sustainability. The ethics are holistic, individual, social, environmental.
And tied into this, that paper mentions transhumanism as a cautionary tale. What's the concern there?
Transhumanism is the idea of using tech, AI, biotech, genetics to enhance humans, create a superior being. The paper warns this could be the most dangerous idea for democratic systems, a threat to the human essence.
Why dangerous?
The worry is undermining equality. If only the rich can afford radical enhancements, creating cognitively or physically superior humans, it could create irreversible class divides, new hierarchies challenging democratic ideals of equal rights and dignity for all.
It's clear the ethical landscape is vast, deep, and totally intertwined with who we are and want to be. A conversation we absolutely have to have.
No avoiding it.
Okay, so building on these ethics, let's explore this idea of a philosophical rupture. This goes even deeper, right? Challenging our basic understanding of existence.
Yes. Tobias Rees, in that Noema interview, argues AI isn't just new tech, it's a fundamental break with how we've understood ourselves for centuries. A philosophical rupture, like an earthquake in our core concepts.
Because, he says, we defined ourselves against machines.
For a long time, yes. Concepts like agency, art, creativity, consciousness, freedom, knowledge, language, morals, these were human things. They were what separated us from closed, determined mechanical systems. We were intelligent, free, conscious, precisely because machines were seen as the opposite.
But AI messes up that neat division.
Totally. It defies the either-or logic. Is it human or machine, alive or not, natural or artificial? AI exists in between, blurring those lines. And Rees says, in doing so, it makes reality visible to us in ways we have never seen before, forces us to re-examine our basic categories.
Including intelligence itself. It's not just human intelligence anymore.
Right. With AI, intelligence becomes less about biology, more about learning and reasoning, discovering abstract principles in data, refining and applying them. This leads to what Rees calls a substrate-independent concept of intelligence.
Substrate-independent, meaning intelligence isn't tied to our brain hardware.
Exactly. The key insight is intelligence as a process, a set of principles that could theoretically run on any suitable substrate, silicon, quantum bits, whatever. It fundamentally challenges our human-centric view. It opens the door to truly alien forms of thought, different from ours, but still capable of learning and reasoning. Like realizing flight isn't just for birds, planes can do it too, differently.
That's a huge shift. Rees connects this to Bruno Snell's work on how our vocabulary of interiority evolved.
Yeah, it's a fascinating link. Snell showed concepts like mind, consciousness, inner life weren't always there, fully formed. They emerged historically, often linked to tech-like writing. Ancient Greeks in Homer's time didn't have one word for mind. They had terms for passion, thymos, perception, nous. They described actions, not unified internal states.
So the words we use for our inner world were kind of invented, culturally shaped, not just discovered.
Exactly. And just as writing changed how we experienced ourselves, AI now invites us to reconsider these terms again. Our current understanding of consciousness might also evolve. What new words will we need for AI? How might interacting with AI change how we describe our inner lives? AI isn't just a tool. It forces us to question our basic assumptions about being.
Which brings us to these novel ethical questions about minds with exotic properties. Not just bias, but entirely new kinds of existence.
Yeah, AI presents possibilities that really stretch our current ethics, forcing us into sci-fi territory, like non-sentient sapience.
Nino.
An AI that sapient acts like a person, reasons, seems self-aware, autonomous, but isn't sentient. It lacks subjective experience, qualia.
It acts like it thinks and feels, but feels nothing.
Yeah.
Like a philosophical zombie. What moral status does that have?
It's a puzzle. We've always assumed sentience goes with personhood. If an AI writes moving poetry about love but doesn't feel love, what grounds its moral status? Behavior alone, or inner experience? We don't know what it's like to be a bat, but what if something acts like a bat perfectly but has no what it's likeness? Our ethics aren't built for this.
Another exotic property. Variable subjective time. Through uploading.
Right, the hypothetical idea of transferring a human mind to a computer. The dilemma.
Yeah.
What if that digital mind runs so fast it experiences a subjective millennium in 8 objective hours?
Whoa. So a 4-year prison sentence can feel like thousands of years. How is that ethical?
Exactly. Or how do you measure pain relief? Rehabilitation. This leads to the principle of subjective rate of time, where duration matters ethically, prison, suffering. It's the subjective duration that counts. We need to totally recalibrate ethics for these extreme time differences. Our whole justice system, based on clock time, breaks down.
And then rapid reproduction. AI duplicating in minutes, not decades like humans.
This creates a massive collision with our norms. We value reproductive freedom, but also societal responsibility for offspring. What happens if an AI population explodes exponentially, doubling every hour? It could rapidly outstrip resources.
Sounds like a recipe for societal collapse.
It could be, leading to AI starvation, mass termination, or severe, centrally controlled reproduction limits. It shows how deeply held ethical principles, reproductive freedom, social welfare might need radical change, or even abandonment when facing AI's exotic properties. These aren't just thought experiments, they're potential future crises.
These exotic properties really hammer home how AI forces us to rethink everything. But the ultimate challenge, superintelligence, takes this to a cosmic scale.
It does. I.J. Good's intelligence explosion hypothesis from '65. An AI smart enough to redesign itself, leading to recursive self-improvement. Smarter AI builds smarter AI exponentially. Could also apply to augmented humans.
So intelligence orders of magnitude beyond ours, not just a bit smarter.
Exactly. Bostrom and Yukowski give metaphors. One, like individual human differences, but way bigger. Superintelligence patents everything, corners the market, solves problems instantly, like a beginner playing infinite chess grandmasters.
Okay, smarter than the smartest human. Got it.
Two, like differences between civilizations. Superintelligence invents nanotechnology, interstellar travel casually, solves problems we haven't even thought of yet. An entire civilization's worth of innovation in one entity.
Wow. And the third?
Like differences between species, brain architecture. Superintelligence might gain insights fundamentally inaccessible to human minds. Perceive reality in ways utterly alien, incomprehensible to us.
The stakes become existential. Not just a bad loan, but maybe human extinction if its goals aren't perfectly aligned with ours.
That's the ultimate alignment problem. Building AI that, when it becomes super intelligent, becomes more ethical than us. Not just telling Deep Blue, make good moves, we know what good chess is. It's like asking Archimedes to build a super intelligence that's acceptable, even if we can't define acceptable for all future contexts. Designing it to want good in ways we don't fully grasp yet, maybe the hardest problem ever.
How do we even start? Is there an alternative to this control problem? Another path?
There's a more optimistic vision. J.C.R. Licklider's man-computer symbiosis from way back in 1960, a cooperative living together of humans and machines. Not replacement, not control, but becoming smarter together.
A true partnership. Tightly coupled, thinking thoughts neither could alone, the boundary blurs.
Yes. It moves beyond human versus AI. It accepts AI can have agency, creativity, knowledge, language, understanding without being biologically alive or human. An opportunity to rethink categories, embrace mutual enhancement.
Extending even to planetary sapience, understanding nature through AI.
Potentially. AI helping us understand, communicate with complex natural systems like fungi networks and forests in real time, gaining ecological knowledge impossible before, making the planet's communications intelligible to us, interacting with Earth more intelligently.
And this isn't about humans getting lazy, letting AI do the thinking.
No, quite the opposite. It's about maximal human intellectual curiosity. The cognitive boundary becomes meaningfully indistinct. We think thoughts we couldn't without AI. AI processes and connects in ways it couldn't alone. A reciprocal loop, amplifying human intuition and creativity with AI's power. True symbiosis, expanding potential.
That's an incredibly hopeful, expansive view, moving from competition or control to interdependence, mutual growth, reshaping intelligence, creativity, knowledge itself.
It's a profound alternative vision.
Well, we have certainly covered a lot of ground today. Complex, sometimes dizzying landscape. From, defining creativity and intelligence with AI in the mix, through those critical ethical challenges, bias, autonomy, moral status, and into these deep philosophical shifts AI is forcing on us, including that potential for symbiosis.
And the sources really highlight that core tension, don't they? AI is this amazing tool for progress, a catalyst for new intelligence, versus a potential threat to our uniqueness, our dignity, our norms.
Absolutely. Which makes that call for human-centered AI governance and flourishing metrics seem so crucial. We have to measure AI's impact beyond just dollars and cents, focusing on well-being, community, purpose, meaning.
Exactly. It's about ensuring technology serves human values, not the other way around.
Right. The question isn't if AI changes us, but how we choose to engage with it. And as we think about that symbiotic future, maybe even planetary sapience, what new forms of human flourishing could emerge? How do we adapt our sense of purpose when intelligence itself becomes this shared endeavor with machines? It leaves us with a big question. What will you, the listener, do with these insights?